Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazuna Peel. Now here are stories making headlines beyond the continent. We begin with Gaza peace talks, where negotiations in Doha have a truce and hostage release deal are in their final stages. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesman Majed Al-Ansari, who is a key mediator, made this known during a news conference. We understand that there would be 3 phases to the deal, with 3 hostages released on the first day and Israel beginning to withdraw troops after that. Envoys for both U.S. President Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump have claimed credit for the progress of the talks, but Trump's looming inauguration has brought the pressure of a meaningful deadline.
We are at a developed stage. We do believe that we are at the final stages, but obviously until there is an announcement, there will be no announcement, and therefore we shouldn't be overexcited about what's happening right now, but certainly we are hopeful that this would lead very soon to an agreement. So the main reason why we are more optimistic right now is, as I said, during the past months there were underlying issues, major issues between the 2 parties unresolved. These issues were resolved during the talks in the past couple of weeks, and therefore we have reached a point where the major issues that were preventing a deal from happening were addressed, and we have language pertaining to these issues that has been distributed between both parties.
Meanwhile, Gazans have expressed their willingness to return to their homes and cities even if they remain in ruins, should a potential hostage deal with Israel be signed. A key far-right member of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government on Tuesday became the 2nd minister to publicly oppose a Gaza truce deal, though he stated he would not seek to topple the ruling coalition. Now, on Monday, far-right Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich also voiced opposition to any agreement that would halt the ongoing conflict.
بعديها أحدن أمي وأبوي أنا نفسي مشتاقة لهم من زمان، يعني إلي سنة وإشي ما شفتش أهلي بالمرة، واستشهدوا عنا، يعني مرت أخوي ابن أخويا وولاد أختي كلهم زين خواتي. فوق الهدم بدنا نعيش، حتى لو إيش مكان خيمة وبنعيش يعني زي ما عشنا هان بنعيش هناك عادي يعني، بس إن شاء الله ربنا ييسرها وتصير الهدنة.
بنعمر يعني بدنا نلاقي البيت مهدوم، بدنا نشتغل على تعميره، بدنا نجدد على تعمير كمان مرة و2 و3 و4 لحد ما نقف على رجلنا. ايش بدنا نسوي؟ نامل من الله إنها تقف الهدنة ونروح نشوف أحبابنا ونشوف بيتنا. لو ركان بدنا نروح على غزة، لو كم ركان بدنا نروح على غزة ونقعد في بيتنا، لو على خيمة نصلي ركعتين شكر لله إن بدنا نرجع اليوم تقف هدنة، نرجع على بيوتنا على غزة.
والله في الشعور بوصف ايش بتوقع او ايش حيصير لما نروح، فيش كلام يعني. احنا بنأمل من الله انه تخلص بعد هيك كل شيء مقدور عليه، لا اكثر ولا اقل. نروح نشوف دورنا، لو على ردم الدور نقعد، هذا بكون افضل.
In the meantime, Lebanon's new prime minister has pledged to extend state authority over all Lebanese soil after a November ceasefire ended a war between Hezbollah and Israel that weakened the Shiite militant group. Nawaf Salam, in his first speech, said he would extend the authority of the Lebanese state across all the territories and work seriously to completely implement UN Resolution 1701, calling for Hezbollah to withdraw from South Lebanon.
وإعادة الإعمار ليست مجرد وعد بل التزام، وهذا يتطلب العمل الجاد على التنفيذ الكامل للقرار الأممي 1901 وكافة بنود اتفاق وقف إطلاق النار وفرض الانسحاب الكامل للعدو من آخر شبر محتل من أراضينا، فلا أمن ولا استقرار لبلادنا دون ذلك. وهذا يقتضي العمل أيضا على بسط سلطة الدولة اللبنانية على كامل أراضيها بواسطة قواها الذاتية، كما جاء حرفيا أنص عليه في اتفاق الطائف.
Now in North America, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's controversial nominee to lead the Defense Department, Pete Hegseth, on Tuesday pledged to restore a warrior culture at the Pentagon if confirmed. Hegseth, a former Army National Guard officer and Fox News commentator, promised to align the party's priorities with Trump's vision for a more combat-oriented military. Hegseth highlighted the need to strengthen the fighting spirit and readiness of U.S. forces, aiming to revive the military's traditional focus on discipline and resilience. The nomination has sparked intense debate. Supporters commend his no-nonsense approach, while critics question his qualifications and leadership style.
When President Trump chose me for this position, the primary charge he gave me was to bring the warrior culture back to the Department of Defense. He, like me, wants a Pentagon laser-focused on lethality, meritocracy, warfighting, accountability, and readiness. Returning the Pentagon back to warfighting, that's it. That's my job.
So for more on this, I'm joined by our News Central international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, once again, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Afia, let's go over some key points from the hearing so far. Tell us about Hegseth's comments on his attitude towards women and women serving in the army.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Pete Hegseth wrote in his book that it was published in 2024 that he doesn't believe that women should serve in the military. Now, he was questioned about this by the Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. She asked him about this and his shifting public comments on that. He has now said that he does agree that women should be able to serve in the military, that the military should be open to anybody of any race, any sex, any color, as long as they are the best person to serve. Now, she questioned whether that was a true statement that he was making, if that was his real opinion, or if he was just saying that because, of course, he's in a Senate hearing. And she said it was quite a miraculous about face. She called it a deathbed. She said she's heard of a deathbed conversion, but this is the first time she's heard of a nomination conversion. I mean, his book came out and just at the end of 2024. So she said it was quite an about face to have in 30 days to go from putting in black and white in print that you don't believe women should be able to serve in the military till today saying that the military can be open to anyone, any sex, any race, any color. Now, there's also been a slew of allegations against Pete Hegseth that he's been accused of sexual assault, that he had an extramarital affair from a Fox News producer that resulted in a baby being born. And, you know, like I said, those encounters of sexual assault as well. He was asked about those, wasn't really very clear on answering the question, implying that they were non-stories.
Yeah, but what about his opinion on the war in Gaza? Is that open?
Oh, yes. I mean, you know, we've just been hearing how we are hopefully very close to a ceasefire in Israel, Gaza. Now, he has said that he unequivocally stands by Israel as the country continues to fight its war against Hamas, so much so that he agrees with Israel being able to wipe out every single member of Hamas. He said, I support Israel destroying and killing every last member of Hamas. He was called a Christian Zionist by someone, a protester who actually interrupted his opening remarks there. So he's very, very clear on his position when it comes to Israel-Gaza, that he supports Israel's right to defend itself, that's what it calls it, and supports Israel's want to kill every single member of Hamas.
Yeah, you touched about his personal life already, but there's still some digging into his personal life that has uncovered his alcohol consumptions and whether he will stay out of private industry. What can you tell us about these?
Well, yes. I mean, if I come to the allegations of alcoholism, you know, it came up in the hearing, people saying that he's turned up to work under the influence of alcohol and potentially drunk. Now, he has said that he will stop drinking if he becomes the defense secretary, that he will stop drinking completely. He said he's made this commitment. He was also asked that if he would resign if he drunk on the job, because, you know, it's a 24/7 position. He said that he would make that commitment on behalf of the men and the women that he was serving. Now, when it comes to private industry, now a policy that both himself and the Democratic senator who was questioning him, Elizabeth Warren, they both support generals in the military and working in the defense industry. staying out of working in the defence industry for 10 years after they take up this position. So he was asked if he would do the same thing, stay out of the defence industry, the private defence industry for 10 years after this position, and he said he would not commit to that, which means that he could, if he gets this position and then finishes his tenure, go off into the defence industry, which could be very lucrative for him.
Well, Afia, once again, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. Now, moving on, staying with the U.S., findings from Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation show U.S. President-elect Donald Trump orchestrated an unprecedented and unlawful campaign to overturn his 2020 electoral defeat. The prosecutors said Trump incited his followers to commit violent acts during the January 6 riots and deliberately spread false claims of electoral fraud in the 2020 elections. News Central's international correspondent Afia Hagan has more on this.
President-elect Donald Trump would have faced conviction for unlawfully attempting to subvert the outcome of the 2020 presidential election, which he did not win, had he not achieved victory in the 2024 election, as detailed in a Department of Justice report submitted to Congress. The report, authored by Special Counsel Jack Smith, stated the available evidence would have been adequate to secure and maintain a conviction during trial. Trump declared that Smith is unhinged and his conclusions are fraudulent following the report's publication. Trump faced allegations of putting pressure on officials to overturn the 2020 results, deliberately spreading misinformation about electoral fraud and attempting to capitalize on the U.S. Capitol unrest on the 6th of January 2021. He maintained his innocence throughout. Trump, who was serving as president when the alleged offences occurred, subsequently remained out of office for 4 years, but secured his return to the White House in November. He will resume the presidency next week. Following his triumph in the 2024 election, the numerous legal challenges he'd been confronting had largely disappeared. Though Jack Smith, the special counsel who conducted investigations into this case and one other, has stepped down from his position before Trump's return, a judge authored the release of the initial section of his report. The 137-page document reached Congress in the early hours of Tuesday. The judge, Eileen Cannon, scheduled a hearing later this week to determine whether to disclose the second portion of the report, concerning separate claims that Trump improperly retained classified government materials at his Florida residence. Writing on his Truth Social platform, Trump defended his innocence, mocking Smith by stating that the prosecutor failed to bring his case to trial before the election, which I won decisively. The voters have spoken, Trump said. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
And still in North America, the United Nations has reported that the number of Haitians displaced by gang violence has tripled in the past year, surpassing 1 million people. The Caribbean nation, long plagued by political instability, has faced worsening conditions in recent years as gangs have gained increasing power. According to the latest figures from the UN's International Organization for Migration, 1.04 million individuals, many of whom have been displaced multiple times, are currently enduring an escalating humanitarian crisis. The surge in displacement highlights the growing severity of the situation as violence continues to uproot families and disrupt daily life in Haiti.
By 2023, we did record around 315,000 people who were displaced from the violence. 1 year since then, we have seen the number tripled to over 1 million people who have now been displaced because of gang violence in Haiti. This is a really troubling number, and it represents the security situation that most Haitians are currently facing. The most concrete data we have is that around 1,041,000 people, to be precise, are currently living in displacement in Haiti. Most of these people have been displaced multiple times. We have seen a lot of the displacement occurring within the capital of Port-au-Prince, but then we've seen also a lot of people being displaced and moving towards the neighboring provinces. And this also has created a bit of pressure on the social services within the provinces.
Now we're going on a short break, and when we return, NATO launches Baltic Sea patrols after suspected cable sabotage. NATO military alliance said it would launch a Baltic Sea monitoring mission following the suspected sabotage of undersea cables in recent months. Several telecoms and power cables have been severed, with experts and politicians accusing Russia of orchestrating a hybrid war against the West as the two sides square off over Ukraine. Speaking at a regional meeting in Finland's capital, Helsinki, on Tuesday, NATO chief Mark Rutte said that the Baltic Sentry mission will involve frigates and maritime patrol aircrafts, among other assets. But he declined to give details on the number of vessels because that might differ from one week to another.
Agreed today to launch an initiative to deploy new technologies to this effort, including a small fleet of naval drones to provide enhanced surveillance and deterrence. We are also working with allies to integrate their national surveillance assets with NATO, ensuring comprehensive threat detection. Robust enforcement is essential. Finland has demonstrated that firm action within the law is possible. Ship captains must understand that potential threats to our infrastructure will have consequences, including possible boarding, impounding and arrest.
So the things that were supposed to bring us together, such as trade, interdependence, technology or energy or currency, they're now used to tear us apart. I mean, those kinds of cyber attacks, we don't even flinch anymore because our systems are so advanced that we're able to fight them off. And this is what also protecting critical infrastructure in the Baltic Sea is about. You live and learn. You detect, you try to prevent, and then you repair and cause minimal damage to society.
Russia's foreign minister has welcomed recent statements from U.S. President-elect Donald Trump regarding the Ukrainian conflict, just days before the Republican assumes office. Trump has pledged to swiftly end the nearly 3-year-long conflict, expressed skepticism over Washington's military support for Kiev, and shown understanding to Moscow's concerns about the NATO military alliance. Speaking at a press conference in Moscow, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the very fact that people are starting to talk more about the realities on the ground.
Поэтому, когда президент Трамп, став президентом, сформулирует окончательно свою позицию по украинским делам, конечно, мы будем ее изучать. Все то, что сейчас говорится, это говорится в рамках подготовки к инаугурации, в рамках подготовки к серьезным... Я думаю, что для начала нужно послушать гренландцев. Так же, как мы, будучи соседями с другими островами, полуостровами и землями, послушали жителей Крыма, жителей Донбасса и жителей Новороссии, чтобы узнать их отношение.
French Prime Minister François Bayrou says it is ready to reopen, or rather that he is ready to reopen talks on a controversial pension reform. He said this while addressing Parliament in his first policy speech. Bayrou also called for the swift adoption of the 2 budgets for the state and social security, adding that all the governing parties have a responsibility for the debt situation the country is faced with.
Je choisis donc de remettre ce sujet en chantier avec les partenaires sociaux pour un temps bref et dans des conditions transparentes, selon une méthode inédite et quelque peu radicale. La démarche s'appuiera sur un constat et des chiffres indiscutables. Je vais demander à la Cour des comptes, en une mission flash de quelques semaines, de nous donner l'état actuel et précis du financement du système de retraite, et ce résultat, le gouvernement le communiquera à tous les...
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has unveiled new measures aimed at addressing the country's housing crisis. Among these is a proposal requiring non-EU residents to pay a tax of up to 100% of the property's value when purchasing real estate in Spain. Sanchez described the measure as unprecedented in Spain's history, but noted that similar policies are already in place in other economies and democracies around the world.
Hemos decidido que vamos a limitar la compra de viviendas por parte de extranjeros extracomunitarios no residentes. Y lo vamos a hacer incrementando la carga fiscal que tendrán que pagar en caso de compra hasta el 100% del valor del inmueble. Esta es una medida inédita en nuestra historia de nuestro país, pero que ya se está aplicando en otras economías, en otras democracias, por ejemplo en Dinamarca o en Canadá. Solo en el año 2023, los no residentes de fuera de la Unión Europea compraron en España.
In Asia, South Korea's Constitutional Court has begun the impeachment trial of President Yoon Suk-yeol, centered around his failed attempts to declare martial law. However, the hearing was quickly adjourned when the suspended president failed to appear. The crisis began on December 3rd, when Yoon attempted to deploy soldiers to storm the National Assembly in an effort to block lawmakers from voting to suspend his suspension of civilian rule. This led to his impeachment and suspension from office. Since then, Yoon has remained at his residence, refusing to comply with investigation summons related to insurrection charges and using his security team to resist arrest. Although the first hearing was brief due to Yoon's absence, attributed to alleged safety concerns, the court has confirmed that the trial will proceed, with additional hearings set for Thursday, January 21st, January 23rd, and February 4th. And that's all on Beyond the Continent this evening. To remember, you can watch News Central live on DSTV Channel 422, Star Times Channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.